Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir. Yes, sir.
I remember what we were discussing in the last class. I guess we were discussing about macro libraries, right?
Yes.
Uh, do you know how to save a macro in a particular library? How to save a macro in a library?
Option I'm store. Options I'm store equal to the library name.
And then when you're creating a macro, after all the parentheses got over, give a forward slash, then what we should write?
Store.
We should
And
write an
if you
option
need
called
to,
store.
need to
And along with the store, what is the another option you should write?
source option.
Source. If you do not write the source option, then what will happen?
Then we don't get the matter that what we have
You can't see the
macro.
code, you can't understand the code.
Macro.
In the real time, which one is better, using a percentage include or creating a macro libraries? Why percentage include is better than maintaining a compiled macros? Maintaining a compiled macros is a very difficult. So instead of that one, we save a macro code in a particular location. And whenever you want to have that macro, by writing a percentage include, and you'll get that macro code back. So that you can execute all the code, you'll get the code. And in that code, if you have a macro, so already the macros will be get created so that you can easy to use that macros. So always percentage include is far better than creating a macro library using the compile macros whenever you require. And I will tell you later how to use that, how to recall that macros, which is compile macros, which is present in a library later. And in today's class, I'm going to start with, macro debugging options. Very, very important interview point of view. By the way, what do you mean by a bug? A bug is nothing but an error in the code. Okay. So if you have an error in the code and that error we call it as a bug, then what is debugging?
Removing the error.
Identifying and removing that error. Identifying and removing the error is called as a debugging. Okay. Now, in macros, you should always write a bug-free program. But how much care that you have taken, sometimes the errors bound to get happen. When you have an error in the macro code, identifying that error, rectifying that error will take a lot of time. Sometimes somebody else may create the macro and you have to use that macro. Whatever the code somebody has created, when you're using that code in our current session, definitely you'll get a lot of errors. Identifying that error, rectifying that error will take a lot of time. Sometimes it is going to take hours together. To help us to identify that error, to rectify that error, we have few options. We have few global options. And those global options are called macro debugging options. So to identify that error, to rectify that error, whenever we require, we are going to use these options. And as I said, you should always try to write a bug-free program. You know how to write the bug-free program? That is every day I'm telling you should always write a SAS macro program in a sequential order so that you never get an error. But as I said, how much of care that you have taken, still there is a chance of having an error. So tell me first of all how to write the bug-free program. First of all, you should write the base SAS code and execute this code. And if you execute the code, if the program got successfully executed, okay, if the program has got successfully executed, and then step by step, you should apply the macro. And I told you, for example, I want to create a macro for proc importer. So if whenever you want to, even though it is boring, and even though you are very professional, like you are pro in that, but still, as I said, you should write the base SAS code first. Now you should write a proc import, then data file is equal to path of the text file, out is equal to data set name, dbms is equal to database management system, and the replace equal and run. First, you will write the base SAS code and you will execute the code. And if you think the programming code successfully got executed, then what you will do now? And I told you, step by step, you should apply the macro. What is the first step you should do before the starting of the code? You should write the percentage macro, and then you should go down and after the base SAS code got over, you should write the percentage amend, keep a semicolon. Again, go to the top. You should write the macro name. Whatever the macro name you want to have, you can write it. And then immediately what we should have, you should have a parenthesis. And you should decide yourself how many parameters you should require. Right? In that way, I want to have file as my first parameter, dataset as a second parameter, DB as a third parameter. Write all the parameters, and the parameter should be separated with comma. By the way, what type of parameters these are?
Positional parameters.
Positional parameters. Okay, and then we should apply those parameters in our code. Now we should write ampersand file, and then we should write out is equal to ampersand ds, and dbms is equal to ampersand db. Now select and after mend one more time, we should write the mac1 macro name, select the program and execute it. Now we are going to have a macro, and this macro will be get compiled into a folder called SAS MACR. This is the default. But if you want to save the same macro in our library, tell me how we are going to save this in our library. Sorry. If you want to save this in a library, first of all, here I'm having in a folder, my macro. I'm going to get the path shifter, right click. I'm going to click on the copy as path. Now tell me first what I should do. I should create a library. Now I'm writing lib name, and I should write the library name and then path of the folder. Now select this one statement executed. Yes, we are going to have a library called Srini. Now I want to save this one in Srini library. Then how to save this in Srini library now? Now you should write options. You should write options, yum stored, SAS yum store is equal to the library name. I want to save it in Srini. But is it going to get saved in the Srini library? No. What I should do, whenever you are creating a macro, after closing the parentheses, keep a /, write the store option. Now this will be get stored in the Srini library. And along with that, what I should write now, I should also write a source option. Now select the program and execute it. Now this macro will be get created, and it has been stored. It's been compiled in a Srini library. There we are going to have SAS MES here. Or can you say what is the macro that we created now? Mac1. Understand this one? Now in future, if you want to see the code of the Mac1, how to see the code of a Mac1? Anybody?
Percentage copy,
Percentage copy, very good. Then
the macro name.
The macro name. What is the macro name I have? Mac1. Mac1 /. What I want to do? I want to see the code, source code. Now write the source. Now select this one line and execute this one line. Now go to that log window. Now there we can find the code. Just imagine we have macros in some other library. Now I want to use that macro now in the current session. Whenever you want to get it back. When we have a user-defined formats in some other library, how to get those formats into current session? Anybody?
FMT search.
Very good. FMT search is equal to, within the parenthesis, library name dot folder name. In the same way, if you want to get the macros which is present in some other library, a user-defined library, how to get those? If you want to get it now, you should write, Again, one more time, we should do global options option. Remember, M stored SAS M store is equal to, remember what was the library that we have created? Srini. And again, we should write one more time, options SAS autos is equal to, again, we should write the library name. This is how we can recall the macros which is present in a user defined library. Now you can use this macros. I want to use the Mac1 macro. I want to import some Excel sheet. Now you know what I should do. You should the percentage Mac1, sorry, percentage Mac1, and then from whichever folder, whichever Excel sheet that you want to, or Excel or CSV file, wherever you want to. Now we can, if you want to import that one, get the path of that one. Here I have, say, for example, SAS data folder. In the SAS data folder, I have a CSV folder, and here I have a CSV folder. In that, I have a hot CSV file. Shift right click, copy as a path, go to the program and paste the path here. Then I want to have a data set name, say, for example, hot, and then I'm writing CSV, close the parenthesis, select this one line and execute this one line. Now, in the work library, we are going to have a data set called, by the way, what is the data set that I'm going to have? I'm going to have a hot data set. This is how we create a macro in a particular library. This is how we are going to use it. Now tell me, if you want to recall that library macro which is present in a user-defined library, how we can do that one? Options, M stored, SAS M store is equal to library name. Again, options, SAS autos is equal to the library name. This is how we can recall a compiled macro which is present in a user-defined library. Understand this one? Clear, everybody? And this is how we should write a macro code. You should always follow the same sequential order. But as I said, how much care that we have taken, bound to get the errors bound to get happen. In this scenario, how to identify the error? To identify the errors, we have a few global options. As I said, these options are called macro debugging options. What are the debugging options that we have? We have major 5 important options. On the left side, I am going to write a default one. On the right side, I will write later, how we can change that one. We are going to have an error called, a debugging option called error. We have one more debugging option called error. And we have an option called mlogic. And we have one more option called mprint. And we have one more option called symbol gen. So these are the very important 5 debugging options. We have other options also, but these are the 5 most important debugging options. Very, very important interview question that you'll get. What are the debugging options that we have? We have error, we have error, we have mprint, mlogic. Sorry, on the left side, I will write the default one. So by default, we are going to have a no mlogic. By default, we are going to have a no mprint. And by default, we are going to have no symbol gen. Okay. Now we'll see one by one what are these options that we have. Now, I'm creating a macro to subset the data. Sometimes I may create a data set where I want to have only female students, only male students, sometimes only age 12, maybe age 13, greater than 13, less than 13, like that one. Tell me how to create a macro to subset the data every time. How to create a macro to subset the data. First of all, tell me the base class code, data, the new data set name, set an existing data set name, and then you will write if condition. I want to have, say, for example, female students. Then what I will write now, if sex is equal to capital F. Okay. Now, first of all, I'm writing the program as this one. I'm selecting this program, executing this one. Now, in the work library, I'm going to have DS1. I'm going to have only female students. Sometimes I want to have male. Sometimes I want to have age 20 to age 12, age 14, or greater than 13, less than 13, greater than or equal to 14, less than or equal to 12. So tell me, if you want to create a macro for this, how many parameters are required?
3 parameters.
3 parameters. Now, with the 3 parameters, I want to create a macro. Now I'm writing, percentage macro. I want to have macro name called subset. Now I'm going to specify the parentheses. I will apply the parameters later. I'll go to the down of the macro. I'm writing percentage amend. Again, I'm writing one more time subset. Again, I'm going to the up. So the first one is I want to have a new data set NDS, comma, old data set called ODS, comma. Then I'm writing condition. So 3 parameters. By the way, what type of parameters these are?
Position.
Positional parameters. Now I'm writing data instead of DS1. What do you want me? Sorry, what do you want me to write?
Ampersand.
Ampersand NDS.
Ampersand NDS. In the set statement, okay, instead of set SAS dot class, what should I write?
Ampersand ODS.
Ampersand ODS. Okay. Now instead of if sex is equal to F, what should I write?
Ampersand
Condition. So this is how I created a macros. Now I want to use that macros. Okay, I want to use this macro. Now to use this macro, now I'm going to write, like tell me what should I write now? I'm writing, so for example, percentage, subset, open the parenthesis. I want to have, I'm writing, old new data set name. I want to have a DS2, comma, old data set name SAS dot class, because I should give the parameter value for the second parameter. I want to have, say for example, age is equal to 12. Now close the parenthesis, keep a semicolon. Now I'm executing this program. When I execute the program, I should get the DS2, but unfortunately I didn't get that one. I want to check. I'll go to the log window. First of all, I'm executing this program. Now I'm executing this program now. I'll go to that log window. So this is the warning I'm getting. Can you see what is the warning I'm getting and why I'm getting?
I have mentioned subset 1.
What is that error warning I'm getting? Can you see that one? Apparent invocation of macro subset 1 not resolved. This is not incorrect or something. I'm using a macro name which is not available in the current session. Okay, I do not have any macro in the work library called subset 1. Okay, I created some macro, but I'm using a different macro. I'm trying to use here subset 1 that we do not have. So by default, what we are going to have? By default, we are going to have an option. So by default, we are going to have an option called mirror. What is this mirror? When this option is on, what it will do? In the log window, it will print information saying that apparent symbolic reference of that macro is not resolved. Apparent invocation of a macro subset 1 not resolved. Why we are getting this warning? Because by default, we have a global option called mirror. What is this mirror will do? When you are using a macro name which is not available in that session, now because this option is on, it will throw a warning in the log window saying that that macro name is not invoked. If you do not want to get that warning, even though you have an error, if you do not want to have that warning, what I should do? Now you should turn that one off by writing no error. If I specify no error, it is a global option. Once you execute this option for entire session, we are going to have the same effect. Now, if I execute the program, what is going to happen? Even though you have an error in the log window, now it will not throw any warning. If you have a warning, by reading that warning, you can easily understand what was our mistake. But since I do not have warning now we cannot that one. So if you want to get that warning, what I should do, I should change that no error into error. Error is in a global option. By default, we are going to have an error. So whenever you are using a macro name, which is not available in that session, now it will throw a warning in the log window. Now, by seeing this one, now I can understand, okay, I do not have a subset one. Maybe I have given the wrong macro name. I will go back to the library and will check it. Now, by checking that one, I can understand, yes, we have only a macro called subset. Now I'm getting the subset. Now, if I execute the program, now since you do not have any error, I'll tell you, here it is not getting resolved. You know what? What I'm getting here, condition?
Age.
Oh, completely. What is the condition I'm writing? Age is equal to
12.
Why? Because I want to have age 12 students, okay? But if I write like this one, what SAS thinks?
It's a keyword parameter.
SAS thinks it is a parameter. Because we can write a parameter like this one, right? If you're writing a keyword parameter, how we will write? Parameter is equal to no. Now SAS is thinking it is a parameter, keyword parameter. But it's not a parameter, it's a condition. What should I do now? I should mask this is equal to symbol. If we didn't mask this is equal to symbol, SAS thinks it is a keyword parameter. How we can mask is equal to symbol? In macros, if you want to mask the is equal to symbol, what you should do? You should keep that within the parenthesis, and before that, you should write an important function called %str. %str is a macro function. It will mask that special character called is equal to. Now, since we have a %str, it is going to mask that is equal to symbol. Now, it will be get resolved as an age is equal to 12. Now, if I execute the program, yes, we are going to have, can you see, I'm getting age 12 students. Now, tell me, what is the use of %str? To mask is equal to mask. We have other functions also to mask special characters. I will let you know later. Understand this one? So what is that Emma error can do? What is the default option? By default, what we are going to have, M error or no M error?
M error.
M error. What this option will do? When this option is on, it will issue a warning in the log window when you are trying to invoke a macro name which is not available in that session. ఓకేనా? మీరు అక్కడ లేని మ్యాక్రో నేమ్ కనుక మీరు ఇస్తే కనుక లాగ్ విండోలో వార్నింగ్ ఇస్తుందండి. ఏమైనా వార్నింగ్ వస్తుందండి? అపరెంట్ సింబాలిక్ రెఫరెన్స్ ఆఫ్ మ్యాక్రో నేమ్ నాట్ ఇన్వోక్డ్. Clear, everybody? Okay, then. Now, I am going to create one more macro this time. Again, to subset the data, I am creating a macro. So you know that how to subset the data. We are going to get the new data set name. We are going to get the existing data set name. And then what we are going to do, we are going to write if condition. And then after that, what we will write the run statement. Now, I want to create a macro called mac1. I am writing percentage macro, then macro name mac1. And how many parameters you require? 3 parameters, dataset 1 ds1, dataset 2 ds2, and then condition cond. Now I'm using a positional parameters, data, ampersand, what I should write? Ampersand ds1, sorry, ampersand ds1, then set, what should I write now? I should write ampersand
Yes.
ds2, but unfortunately I have given ampersand ds. And I'm writing if ampersand cond. And then finally I'm writing a percentage amend. Then I'm writing mac1 again. What is the mistake I did here? I'm using a parameter, I'm having a parameter ds2, but when I'm using the parameter in the program, instead of ds2, I have given ampersand ds. I didn't see that one. I'm executing this program now. I want to use this macro for SAS cars. I want to have only BMW cars. Okay. To get the BMW cars, again, what should I do? I am writing a percentage Mac1. Yes, I want to have a cars one data set. Yes, I want to have it from the SAS help.class. Sorry, SAS help.cars. And then I'm writing, make is equal to BMW. We have BMW uppercase there. I'm using the same BMW uppercase. And I told you, if you want to mask that is equal to symbol, what I should do? I should use percentage str and you should write everything within the quotations. Now, first of all, I'm using this program. I'm executing this program. Now I'm trying to execute. I want to resolve that macro. Now I have a cars one. Unfortunately, I didn't get the data. I want to check what exactly happened. I'll go to the log window. Now, can you see this is the warning I'm having? Can you see what the warning I'm having? Apparent symbolic reference DS not resolved. So whatever that macro parameter that I used, but I try to specify a different one. So we have a parameter called DS2, but here I'm writing it in local macro variable as an ampersand yes. By default, we are getting a warning in the log window, and this is the warning we are getting. By reading this warning, you can understand. And by the way, do you know why I'm getting this warning? Because by default, we are going to have a global options now. Now I am writing options. The default option that we have is SRR. What this SRR will do? When you're wrongly invoking a macro parameter, it will issue a warning in the log window saying that apparent symbolic reference of that macro name is not resolved. It is a default one. By default, we are going to have an SRR. If you do not want to have that one, again, what I should do, we need to change that into no SRR. If you have a no SRR, even though you have a warning, even though you have an error, it will not issue any warning in the log. Can you see there is no apparent symbolic reference of macro, which is a DS not resolved? We used to have this warning. Now we do not have that warning now. So if you want to get that warning, what I should have? You should have SRR. Now, since we have an SRR, it will issue a warning. Now, by seeing this one, by reading this warning, I can understand what is the mistake I committed. I'll go back to the program. Now, again, I will let either DS here or I will let the DS2 here. Since we have both the places DS, now if I execute the program, yes, I'm going to have a cars one. Now, can you see I'm going to have only BMW cars in the data set. Since we do not have any error in the log window, you will not find any warnings or any errors. Now tell me why we use the M error, why we use S error? M error is for the wrong macro name. S error is for a wrong macro parameter. Understand this one?
Yes, sir.
No. The next option that we are going to have options M logic. By default, we are going to have a no M logic. Okay. So I'm writing no M logic. Say for example, I'm taking the same program again, same macro. By default, we are going to have a no M logic. When I execute the program, you will not get any information. Simply whatever the code that you submitted, you'll get it. First of all, I'm going to delete my old data sets. Now, if I execute the program, yes. First of all, I'm execute the macro. We have a macro now. I want to create data set with only male students. I'm writing a percentage Mac1. I want to have class 1. Then I want to create this from the SAS help.class. And I want to have only female students. Sex is equal to capital F. And you know that if you write the sex is equal to capital F, you should enclose that one with the percentage str. Now close everything within the quotations. What you should write? You should write the percentage str. Now if I execute the program, I'm going to have a class 1 without any problem. Yes, I'm going to have females information in the data set. But in the log window, what we are getting, we will not get anything. Just what is the macro that user will get only that information. But I want to know what are the parameters and what are the values of those parameters. Now I'll go back to the program. I'm changing no M logic into M logic. I'm selecting this entire program and executing it. And by the way, you no need to execute this. We don't need to execute this program. When I'm resolving the macro, simply I'm changing that no M logic into M logic. Now I'm selecting this program, executing it. Now, yes, I will get the data set. That is okay. But if you go to the log window, now this is how we are getting the information. Can you please read and understand what is that information we are getting? M logic Mac1, beginning of execution. Parameter DS1 has a value of class 1. Parameter DS has the value of SAS class. Parameter condition COND has the value of sexf. So that means what MLogic will do, MLogic will write information saying that what are the parameters and what are the values we have that for the parameters. So each parameter and it will write its value. This MLogic is particularly useful when writing a do loops and particularly nested do loops in macros. Okay, when writing a nested do loops, so the code is going to be very complicated. If you want to understand whatever each parameter and what are the values that we have, we are going to use this MLogic option. But by default, how we are going to have? By default, we are going to have a no MLogic. If you have no MLogic, it won't print any information in the log window. But if you change that no MLogic into MLogic, now whenever I'm writing the code, I will keep this MLogic option so that I will get the parameters and values in the log window. Understand this one? Now I'm writing no MLogic. And the next option that I'm going to write is, by default, we are going to have a no mprint. When this option is no print, you won't get any information, but I'm changing no mprint into mprint. What is this mprint option will do? This mprint option, I told you in the starting, in macros, we are having two important components. One is the macro language, and then second one is the macro processor. I told you, whenever you write the code that you are writing in macro language, when you execute the code, I told you this code goes and communicates with the macro processor. Now the macro processor will convert our macro code into base SAS code. Now the program is going to get executed. Okay. So now whatever that macro processor converted code that we have, if you want to see because some programmers, they are very good at base SAS programming, they can easily resolve any issue in the base SAS. But if you have any issue in the macros, for them it is going to be very difficult. So I want to print this macro code in the base SAS so that I can easily identify the error. If you want to print the macro code in the if you want to print your macro code in the base SAS code, we are going to turn no mprint to mprint. After writing the mprint, now if I execute the program in the log window, can you tell me what is the base SAS code for this one? What is the base SAS code for this one?
Data class 1.
Data class 1.
Class 1. Set SAS
class. If
sex is equal to within the quotations capital.
This is the base SAS code. Now this is what exactly is going to print in the log window. Now can you see what we have in the log window now? Data class 1 set SAS help dot class if sex is equal to f semicolon run. So if you want to print the macro processor converted base SAS code, what is the option you should write now? You should write an option called mprint. What is the default option that we have? By default, we are going to have a no mprint. By changing that into mprint, by using that option, now we can convert, you can print that base SAS code So now it is going to be easy for us to identify the code. So it is going to be easy to debug the code. Understand this one? Is this clear, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the next global option that we are going to have is by default, we are going to have an option called no symbol gen. Now I'm changing mprint to no mprint, but I'm writing now no symbol gen, no symbol gen. But when we have a no m logic, no mprint, no symbols, and all these are defaults, you won't get any information in the log window. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change no symbol gen into symbol gen. Now what this symbol gen option will do? Symbol gen option will tell you how each macro variable has been resolved. How a macro variable has been resolved into. Now tell me, what are the macro variables that we have in this program? We have 3. DS1, DS and condition. Now tell me how the DS1 has been resolved as an DS1 has been resolved as a class 1. DS has been resolved as a SAS class, and a condition has been resolved as a sex is equal to F within the quotation. Isn't it? If you want to see how each macro variable which has been resolved into, now write the symbol gen option. Now go to that log window, and this is what we are going to do. Now can you say macro variable DS1 resolves to class 1, macro variable DS resolves to SAS class, macro variable condition resolve to sex is equal to F within the quotations. Now you'll get it out what is the difference between M logic and symbol gen. What the M logic will do? M logic will tell you what the macro parameter and its value. But what the symbol gen will do? How a macro variable has been resolved into. So M logic ఏం చేస్తుందంటే ఏ macro variable కి లేదు macro, I told you macro parameter is also nothing but in the macro variables, but is in a local macro variables within a macro. So a M logic is going to tell you what is the parameter or macro variable its value, and what the symbol gen will do, how it has been resolved into. అది ఎలా రిజాల్వ్ అయిందో చెప్తుందండి. దానికోసం చూడండి, ఇప్పుడు నేను నో ఎమ్ లాజిక్ ని ఎమ్ లాజిక్ కింద, నో సింబాల్ జెన్ కింద చేంజ్ చేసి ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేస్తున్నాను. ఒకసారి లాగ్ విండోలో ఎమ్ లాజిక్ ఏం చేస్తుందో సింబాల్ జెన్ ఏం చేస్తుందో చూడండి. ఎమ్ లాజిక్ ఏం చేస్తుందంటే ద పారామీటర్ అండ్ ఇట్స్ వాల్యూ, బట్ వాట్ ద సింబాల్ జెన్ విల్ టెల్ us how it has been resolved into. ఓకేనా? వాల్యూ ఉన్నంత మాత్రం రిజాల్వ్ అయిపోయిన రూల్ ఏమి ఉండదండి. Sometimes you may have value, but it may not be get resolved into that. But now, M logic is going to tell you just what is the value that you have, but symbol gen will tell you how it has been resolved into. And in future, we are going to have a multiple ampersand concepts. So there, I will let you know what is the difference when it comes to the programming wise between the M logic and symbol gen. Understand this one symbol gen. So these are the 5 debugging options that we have. We have other important debugging, other debugging options also, but those are not so important. We are going to have M file, M check, we are going to have other functions also. Tell me, what are the debugging options that we have, and what are the use of each option? By default value, I'm writing on the left side. By default, what we are going to have? M error. What the M error will do? What is the use of M error? When this option is on, if you are wrongly invoking any macro name, it will issue a warning. Macro name. This one. The macro name. And then what the S error will do? When you are wrongly invoking a macro parameter, it will issue a warning. Then what the M logic will do? What is the parameter and what is the value of each parameter? And then what the M print will do? It
It's
will
the
print
base SAS
the
program.
base code in the log window. And what is that symbol gen will do?
It resolves the macro error.
What is the parameter macro variable, how it has been resolved into? Okay, now variable and how it has been resolved into. Okay, so in the interview they're going to ask a two important question: how many ways you can create a user defined macro variable? And the next question: what are the debugging options that you know in macros? And then they will ask the difference between mlogic and symbolgen or mlogic and mprint. Very, very important interview questions. Understand this one?
Sir, can you repeat
Yes.
once the imprint, sir?
Mprint is going to print base SAS code in the log window. Okay, I told you when I write a macro code and goes and communicates with what? Macro processor. And the macro processor will going to convert that macro code into base SAS code. And if you want to know what is that base SAS code, if you write the mprint, now in the log window, it will print equivalent base SAS code for a given macro. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Say for example, here I have an A. I think both are same Mac 1 and subset. Say for example, if I execute the program, what we are going to have now? We are going to have a Mac 1. By tell me why I created this. Say for example, I'm creating a macro called Mac. Okay, this one. What is the macro I created now? Mac. Okay. Now, while I'm using this Mac, I want to know what is the base SAS code equivalent to this one. Tell me what is the base SAS code for this one. Do you know? What is the base SAS code for this one? Proc import.
For data from equal.
Data file is equal to path. Out is equal to heart.
New
Data.
data.
DBMS is equal to CSV. Replace semicolon run. If you want to see that base SAS code, what should I write now? Options.
Options.
Mprint.
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 If I execute this program now, in the log window, didn't I write mprint?
Sir, ML
సార్
దగ్గర
పైన
Mac 1 అలాగే
పర్సెంటేజ్
ఉంటుంది.
అమౌంట్ దగ్గర మ్యాక్ 1 అని రాశారు సార్.
Options. I am writing mprint option. Percentage Mac. Open the parenthesis. Path of the CSV file. And I want to have a hard data set. And the DBMS is CSV. Close it. Now, if I select this one line and if I execute the program, now first of all, I am going to have a data set called heart. And yes, I got the data. And at the same, if you go to the log window, now can you see what the mprint is doing? What is that error I'm getting? We'll do one thing. Mprint proc import data file is equal to we have path Out is equal to data set name, dbms is equal to csv, replace run. Okay, not a problem. We got the data set. This is not an error. It is printing all that information. What we have information formats in it. That is not so important. So this is what mprint will do. It is going to print the base SAS code for it. If I specify no mprint, you won't get any such information. You won't get any information. Understand this one?
Yes. Thank you.
So this is all in temporary library now, sir. What is the use that having this in log, temporary log?
What do you mean by temporary log?
I mean, we should submit this log to higher officials now, sir.
Yes.
How can we submit this log? How can we save this, sir?
I told you, in the last class we are going to have a proc print to a procedure called proc print to.
Once repeat that.
I don't know. Proc print to is to submit the log. But why we read the global options? We read the global options for our convenience to identify, to rectify that error. Okay. Global option is option that this all the debugging options are the options for the user and the programmer point of view. If you want to find out any error that we have in the program, so to make it easy for us, we are going to use the global options. Okay. But anyway, yes, as I said, we need to submit that log window. How to submit the log window? Remember, proc print to log is equal to
The file name.
file name, or you can give the path of the text file. So that automatically the log window will be get exported into that location.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And then we'll see one more concept. I'm creating a macro variable called percentage let x is equal to 9. I'm writing one more macro variable percentage let y is equal to 8. Now I'm creating a new variable percentage let z is equal to %x plus %y. Now can somebody tell me what is the z value?
70.
9 plus 8.
I'm executing this program and then executing this statement also. I'm executing this statement. If you want to see any macro variable value, how we can see? Percentage put ampersand x, okay, ampersand y, and I want to set ampersand z also. And I told you in macros we have only one type of data. What is one type of data that we have?
Character.
Only character data. So what is the x value 9? What is the y value 8? And what is how this x will be get resolved? 9. How this y will be get resolved?
8.
8.
Now the z value will be 9 plus 8, not 17. A plus b అంటే కనుక ఏముంటుందండి x c is equal to a plus b అని అనుకోండి a plus b నే ఉంటుంది. Because in macros we have only one type of data, which is character data. Understand? Say for example, if I had a percentage letter, sal is equal to 1 lakh. Now what is this 1 lakh? Is it numerical data or character data?
Numerical.
Correct.
Character data only.
Character data.
In macros there is no numerical data. Only one data, which is character data. But if I write the percentage let again, if the percentage name is equal to say for example Srinian Rasan anukondi, it is also character data only. That's why base as the character అయితే కనుక quotation లో పెడతాం, numerical అయితే open గా రాస్తాం. Here you no need to do that one because everything is only character data. But I want to resolve z is equal to 8 plus 9, 9 plus 8, 17. Now, if you want to resolve this, whatever the values x and y value, if you want to resolve that as a numerical data, now we are going to use a macro function called percentage eval. What this percentage eval will do? Percentage eval will resolve numerical values as numerical values in macros. So now, and I'm going to keep this ampersand x plus ampersand y within the parenthesis. Before the starting of this one, I am writing percentage function called eval. Now, if I use the percentage eval, now if I execute, and after that, if I execute the percentage put, now can you see what is the z value that we have in the log window now?
17.
17. So, if you want to resolve numerical values as a numerical data in macros, what is the macro function you should use now?
Percentage eval.
Percentage eval. Very, very important function. Now, and after this, again, I'm going back to my program. I'm at x is equal to 9.7, y is equal to 8.9. Now tell me, what is the z value? What is the z value? 9.7 plus 8.9. It must be 18.6. 18.6. Now I'm selecting the program, executing the program. Now this is the error I'm getting. A character operand was found in the percentage eval function or percentage if condition, where a numeric operand is required. What SAS is doing to? It cannot understand what is this dot symbol. When I'm writing a percentage eval, what is the ampersand x value? 9.7 plus ampersand y value 8.9. What is the dot symbol? It cannot understand. That means whatever the percentage eval that we have, it works only for integer value. But what we should do if we have a decimal values like this one? If you have a decimal value, so instead of writing a percentage eval, you should write a percentage sys eval f. This is the function you should write. Understand the difference between a percentage eval and a percentage sys eval f? Percentage eval is only for integer data, and a percentage sys eval f is for decimal values also. Now, since I'm writing a percentage sys eval f, now if I execute the program, now 9.7 plus 8.9, it is going to get resolved as an 18.6. But the advantage with percentage sys eval f is now we can give the second argument also. In the second argument, now you can write a function called seal. What the seal function will do in base SAS, by the way?
It returns the smallest integer.
Highest integer value.
Highest integer value. What is the highest integer value of 18.6? 19. So this will be get resolved as a 19. Can you see? Now, what other thing that we can write? Instead of seal, we can also write the floor. If we write the floor, how it is going to get resolved now?
18.
It will resolve as an 18. You can write seal, floor, or you can also write int. If I write int, then what I will get now? I will get again 18.
Only 18.
Understand this one? So this is the difference between eval and percentage sys eval, percentage eval and percentage sys eval f. Clear, everyone? Okay. We cannot use round or any other function. We can use either seal, floor, or int. That's it. Okay. Okay then. So I'm going to stop this class for here today. We'll continue in tomorrow's class. Okay. And tomorrow we'll finish it off macros. We have macro functions and if condition do loops. We'll see that one in tomorrow's class and we'll finish it in by tomorrow. Okay? Clear, everybody?
Sir, can you share this one, sir?
I think I deleted. Yes. You can use it. Even they do not have any decimals, you can use sysval for normal integer values also. Okay. See you in tomorrow's class.